Hello and welcome to the Story Engine podcast. My name is Kyle Gray, and today on the show we have Brett Swarts. Brett is the founder of capitalgainstaxsolutions.com and is a master at helping high wealth individuals transfer their wealth into passive income, escaping the 20 to sometimes 50% taxes that can eat away at your hard work, and making sure that the wealth that you have grown and stewarded gets passed on from generation to generation in the way that you see fit. We're going to understand Brett's unique process for doing this and discover his origin story of why he is so passionate about this. So without any further ado, let's hand it over to Brett Swarts. Brett Swarts, welcome to the Story Engine podcast.
Kyle, grateful to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to dive into a topic that I think this will be the first time we've heard it on this show. But before we do that, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and how you're showing up in the world today?
Yeah. So my name is Brett Swarts, originally from California. Now I live in Florida. Married, 5 kids at this point. This is great. We're probably stopping at 5. And I grew up in mostly a family that loved real estate, built real estate, and also loved sports. Loved playing sports. I played basketball in college, and I had a chance to study and practice multifamily brokerage at a place called Marcus and Millichap, where I learned a lot of the investment real estate. I like to call it a real estate investment advisor game. Fast forward, we can go between now and then. I sort of cover all of this. We really like to solve problems for people that are facing big capital gains tax challenges. And so that's what we do now. We build capital gains tax exit plans for purpose-driven entrepreneurs and investors that are exiting highly appreciated assets. And it can be Bitcoin, businesses, real estate. And then we deliver a truly passive income wealth plan that unlocks more freedom and flexibility for these families, and to be able to give more, be a great steward with the capital. And that's kind of the focus that we focus on.
Yeah. Well, let's start out with who is this perfect for? Who are the people? You mentioned a lot of different people and maybe a lot of different ways that capital gains tax can be thought about. Tell us, there's many different entrepreneurs, real estate owners, investors. Tell us about the people that can really benefit from this philosophy.
Mm-hmm. So the first thing is, I think you have a mindset of tax flow, cash flow, and debt flow, understanding the differences between those three. And on top of that, understanding and having a mindset of stewardship over ownership, that everything we've been given has been it's a blessing and a gift from God, whether it be our businesses, whether it be the wealth we've been able to earn and achieve. And we have an opportunity to maximize on an exit and be even a better steward with the capital. A lot of our clients are entrepreneurs and business owners, selling a dental practice, selling a big piece of real estate, selling a tech company. And they are wanting to, avoid, the better word to say is defer the tax on the sale legally in order to start that next business venture, that next real estate investment. The big painful part of this is they have an awareness of that 20 to 50% of their proceeds are going to be crushed by tax, that capital gains tax. So they have a big exit, and they want to compound the momentum. They also want and need a team to help them be great steward with the wealth, and to have great investment opportunities, and to execute on the wealth plan, kind of like forming a mini family office. If you've heard of that before, where people have the best-in-class advisors to help them go to war, if you will, with the wealth, to make a big difference and a big impact. The other client is same in a lot of respects, but they're more in the sage stage of their life, right? They've been the warrior and the king, and now they're in the sage, and they're more of the baby boomer who's looking to retire and be more passive with the cash flow, and they're really looking for what's called truly passive income. We believe truly passive income is to your freedom and impact as compounding interest is to your money. And some people, it's 20,000 a month, 30, 40, 50, 60,000 plus a month. And when that's coming in and you're not trading your time, your talents, your treasure, your stress, right, from managing a business or real estate, it unlocks a level of freedom and impact that is hard to find anywhere else. In fact, we call that the fourth quadrant, Kyle. The Robert Kiyosaki Rich Dad Poor Dad. I'm sure you've had guests speak about this before. Most people never actually get to the fourth quadrant. They're told that they can own these real estate assets and they'll be passive income. I can tell you it's not true. It's not passive. It's anything but passive. In fact, real estate owners still have to manage the manager. They still have to deal with the government changing regulations. They still have to deal with the rent control, the tenants not paying on time, the insurance costs skyrocketing, the interest rates going. It's just endless ownership stress, right? It's not passive. It's very active. And so in our strategy, we truly get passive because they can sell that real estate, be done with that forever. Sell that business, be done with that forever. And then invest into assets or investment classes that are managed by truly somebody else, and the cash flow is showing up every month. Now they pay tax on what they receive. And so that's kind of the second, kind of client avatar. They're going to be probably 65 and above, and they're really looking to be the sage. They're also looking for a team of professionals to help them help their kids or their grandkids, right, steward the wealth, because sometimes the husband and the wife, or just a single person, they don't necessarily have a team of kids. Some of the kids are distracted, some of the kids are not engaged, or some of the kids just don't have a passion for continuing to steward the wealth. And so we come alongside and kind of partner with these families to come alongside the kids to help them maintain the momentum. There's a stat that 70% of families basically go from short sleeve to short sleeve in 3 generations. So the first generation builds it, second generation spends it, third generation loses it. And now it's the cycle of wealth is starting back at ground zero. And so we're trying to be a big partner with these families to help them exit well and steward the capital well.
Amazing. So one of the things I'm hearing that's really big is like a lot of people are into the promise of passive income and finally having freedom in our lives. And I think however we get into investments or creating a startup or whatever we're building, I think a lot of people have a vision of leading and living a better life, that along the way, it gets lost in the mix of maintaining the business, maintaining the assets, doing all of these things. And sometimes we even forget why we started down this path in the first place. And that can be really discouraging and stressful, especially when this was supposed to be the thing that creates freedom. And it seems like the promise of real estate is everybody seems to want it, but it can be really hard to maintain that. And even if you are able to achieve that, there's a certain insecurity in, can this really last generationally? Can it be stewarded well? And it's unfortunate that probably the generations that they handed off to don't appreciate or understand everything that really went into it.
Precisely.
Are there any other big problem areas or pain points or challenges that we haven't quite covered that, is in the experience of really managing your capital wisely?
I think the biggest challenges to managing capital wisely is having a team that's a balanced team. I'll give you an example, right? You have Steph Curry, you have Draymond Green, you have Steve Kerr, used to have Klay Thompson. They each had a unique skill set to bring the team together to win those championships when they did. And I think too often it's either left just to the entrepreneur by themselves or with one advisor, or the advisor team is only focused on one asset class, one asset type, and one asset specialty. I like to say a balanced team is going to have a financial advisor, a real estate investment advisor, strong real estate brokers, strong CPAs, tax attorney, estate planning attorney, understanding that those key, at least those are the key components to having wise counsel to help you manage capital. And so the problem is that a lot of times it's disconnected from the entrepreneur or the business owner or the real estate owner, or they're left to do it all themselves, and it's just not as efficient as it could be. The other part of this too is some folks we serve Bitcoin owners that own a lot of Bitcoin, okay, and they're exiting. They want to exit, and some of them never want to sell ever, but they really want that passive income ability, and so we like to say, hey, sell high and buy Bitcoin lower, tax deferred, make it and in both, the power of and. I have a mentor named Don, and he talks about the power of and, which is how do you get both of what you're looking for? How do you have a great family and a really successful career, right? Not having to sacrifice both. So for a Bitcoiner, like, how do you exit well, defer your tax, and buy back into Bitcoin at a lower price? If the whole concept is to just own Bitcoin, right? So that's the piece here where if you're only focused on just a price versus the truly passive income piece, and then how you can do it in a tax efficient way, those are things that get lost. And I think urgency and time is a big piece of this too, because if we don't make the decisions to pursue the things that we want, who knows if we're going to have the time to get those things. And so just having a mindset of, hey, there's certain things you want, pursue those, and not at the cost of capital gains tax, right? Hopefully you have a plan set up with us so that you don't have to, have that consequence, and get what you want, right? That which is truly passive income. So those are some of the things that I would say.
Sounds like the management of the wealth itself is an entirely new skill set to the skill set that actually created the wealth. And even just having it on one advisor can be risky. Managing it on your own and managing it in a non-timely manner can really create a lot of pain. And I'm sure that losing a quarter to half of the thing that you worked so hard on to build your vision and build your dream is just a frustrating experience to go through.
Yeah, 100%. Especially given what we've seen recently with the way the government handles a lot of our tax dollars, which is waste, fraud, and abuse. So on one side of it, Kyle, it's like, man, like, it's one thing to pay tax and be like, oh yeah, they're doing great things with it. They're good stewards with it, and it's going to fix the roads and take care of the most vulnerable people in an efficient way, and all these really great things that government can do with our tax dollars. It's another thing to say, oh my gosh, there's no one manning the ship, right? There's no one manning the plane, and they're just crashing planes of billions of dollars, right? Just exploding, and quite frankly, crushing wealth, right? And then just printing the dollars, right? And then they just increase the taxes and regulation and print the dollars. And so it's like, wow. So that's like the painful reality of if you don't do the planning. Mm-hmm. And then you have the desire of, well, what if I could make an impact for myself and my family today, and I can compound this momentum on my exit and let it work for generations for my family. And so, yeah, not just the tax piece, but the team to execute and to build the wealth with your family, for your family, versus the government. We call it the reverse Tea Party is really what's happening. Mm-hmm. 250 years ago, we fought for, as Americans, our ancestors, to be able to have freedom and less taxation, more representation, more rights, right? Now, fast forward is $124 trillion that's set to transfer in the next 5 to 10 years. This is known as the wealth silver tsunami, the largest wealth transfer in the history of the planet. There's 10,000 baby boomers turning 65 every single day in the U.S. alone. And there's 80 million in the U.S. alone. And 50% of all wealth in America is tied to high-end primary homes, businesses, and commercial real estate, all of which are illiquid assets that are highly appreciated, owned mostly by baby boomers that are in their retirement and towards the end of their life, right? And then they have another 5, 10, 20 years left. And so all of this is crashing at once. And if the government gets the 124 trillion, Kyle, it doesn't matter who's in office, our freedoms as we know them as Americans will be forever changed. Or legal, tax codes that we can use and teams that we can hire to execute to keep the wealth in the hands of the people can create the jobs, can create the tax revenue. That's really how we really create tax revenue, is creating more jobs, create the industry, can build more affordable, attainable housing, right? And end a lot of the big challenges that America is facing. But we're at this crossroads right now. And again, there's never been in the history of the planet that we know of more of a wealth transfer from one generation to the next that's happening in the next 5 to 10 years. So that's what's at stake. And it's big and it's serious. And that's part of why it's our calling here at Capital Gains Tax Solutions to be on the front line to educate CPAs, financial advisors, business brokers, real estate professionals, and the ultra high net worth families and their advisors to build a plan, build a team, keep that momentum, keep the money in the hands of the people.
Amazing. I love working with people who are working towards creating a better future for the world and for this country. And yeah, I agree. No matter what side of the political spectrum you're on, I'm sure you have doubts about our country's ability to use those tax dollars in a way that you would see fit. Um, and I love that this is connected with this is a macro generational wealth transfer. And we've already talked about kind of the uncertainty in just with a single family. But yeah, there's so much more at stake here. I'm curious, you've highlighted a couple of things that are unique about your approach and what you do, having a balanced team that understands many different areas of the marketplace and how to approach this. I think creating truly passive income is something that you've highlighted. What other things are unique about capital gain tax solutions that you would want to highlight or showcase? Not necessarily the outcomes that you provide, but how you get people to those outcomes.
Yeah, great question. So our unique competitive advantage we think we have to the marketplace to provide this is that we're really good at real estate. So we're real estate investment advisors by trade and by just literally growing. I grew up blood, sweat, and tears at a young age building real estate with my family in California, and then had a chance to study and practice it in college and in my first part of my career at Marcus and Millichap. So that unique approach to real estate, investing, brokering, negotiating, underwriting, and understanding brings a great unique advantage to the team that we're forming for these trusts. A lot of people have that local real estate agent or that commercial real estate broker that helps them maybe with some of their transactions, but they don't have somebody who has the deep understanding of passive and active deals, funds, syndications, debt funds, equity funds, different product types of industrial office, medical office, multifamily, land development. And so you combine that unique skill set with others that we have from our podcast and our YouTube channel that we connect and network with. And that helps to bring a strong foundation of the real estate aspect to the table. I also have a unique background of securities a little bit, investing with Wachovia Securities is where I started originally. And then I have my Series 22 and 63 licenses at one point. I've given those up because I don't want to compete with the advisors that I work with. But then we work with great financial advisors as well to do a balanced approach for the team. So that I think that's a real advantage for clients because I'm an entrepreneur. And I think you're best positioned to serve the person that you once were or you are, right? And so being that I'm an entrepreneur, business owner myself, real estate owner myself, that's where most of our clients are exiting businesses in real estate. And then Bitcoin is the last one. I'm also a Bitcoin owner myself. I can uniquely relate with them and help them. Besides that, we can also save a failed 1031 exchange, just practically speaking. We're one of the few in the country that's done regular 1031 exchanges, Delaware Statutory Trust, and our strategy deferred sales trust. So that's important because most advisors do one, maybe two, but most only do one, where the unique is on all three. We can save a failed 1031 exchange, which is important to understand how that works. And then we can also eliminate estate tax. So for the ultra high net worth families that have 30 or more million dollars of net worth, or married or single 15 million, they're facing a 40% death tax upon their passing, depending on what's inside of their taxable estate, regardless of the stepped up basis. And so that piece of it really makes it a big challenge to solve for. And then I think that anything, I just met a really smart CPA tax attorney, and I spent the 10,000 hours studying and practicing what I do. And so I like to say I deliver in 1 hour or 2 hours what I've because I've spent 10,000 hours. So you could do it in an hour or two. So that's really it. I just love what I do. Learned a lot from really smart people, and now feel it's my calling to help people, build these plans and exit well and steward well.
So as an entrepreneur and as somebody that can relate to these people, I'm certain that you've had moments of staring down a 20 to 50% capital gains tax bill, or wrestling with the loss and the stress or of either managing a lot of wealth or losing wealth to taxes or these systems. Do you have moments where you've had to face these problems yourself? And if so, can you give us a specific time and place where you were facing these same problems that we've been talking about with your clients?
Yeah. So, I mean, mostly it's been in real estate where I've invested most of my wife and I invested most of our personal capital. And we have decided to do it passively and really, really by default, because we had 5 kids and then we had so many kids so fast. I found that early in my career, in order to focus on my career and not get tied up in real estate active investments, I found that it was best to partner with the best in those types of assets, like medical office, industrial, multifamily, luxury developments. And all of those were very successful. We had one that was a retail deal that we bought at 50% vacant and 50%, well, actually it was like 100% vacant, 50% built. I bought it in the around 2010 timeframe, 2011 timeframe. And that was really at the low part of the marketplace for commercial real estate, and saw a tremendous gain within just about 14 months, which was great.
So specifically, allow me to redirect you. You are sharing victories and successes, which are excellent. And I want to understand a moment where you were feeling the emotional pain and frustration of over managing your real estate, of feeling the uncertainty of, I have a large tax bill that I don't want to pay, or looking at your kids and hoping, can I hand this off to them successfully? Am I leaving a legacy? I want moments of uncertainty and challenge rather than victory.
I'm with you. Yeah. So let's actually go. Let's back up. And so this is more through my family, not necessarily when I was actually 6-7 years old when my parents got divorced. Right. And so my mom and dad built a huge amount of wealth in the Bay Area of California with real estate. And it was great for a while until it wasn't, until wealth kind of really started to become too much in a sense. And the family divorced, and my brother and I were left not having a lot of time with my dad, and my mom, not receiving any child support. And so I saw firsthand what the wrong way to do it, which is families that don't have a clear mission, vision, values, that let wealth and become a weapon by not paying child support. And so at a young age, I just said, I'm not going to do that. I'm never going to let my work or my wealth get in the way of my family and the clear values that we have. And so that's the foundation of honestly, truly passive income. And so fast forward.
Oh, before we fast forward, no.
Yeah.
You said, I'm never going to do that. And something happened. You were in a room and you saw something. Maybe it was your mother and father fighting. Maybe it was you witnessing the impact of not getting child support and seeing the stress on your mother's face. Maybe it was a conversation between you and your brother. What is a specific moment in this time that we can take into a room with?
I think it was around 12 or 13 when I actually started to ask the questions about what really happened. And I remember asking my mom, like, what really happened? Like, we're not like other families. Like, dad's not here. You're over here. We're driving 2-3 hours back and forth from the Bay Area to Sacramento to spend time with one another. Dad can't come to all the games, right? We don't have Christmases or holidays together, and we can't even afford a car. I remember our Cadillac broke down, and it was one year where it was like an aluminum engine, and they thought it was going to be lighter and better, and it broke down, and she's like, we can't afford a car. So if it wasn't for my grandma and the van that she had, we wouldn't even have a car. And I'd go to my dad's house, and he'd have Harleys and he'd have Corvettes, and he'd take us camping and to Disneyland, and he'd spoil us. But we were only with him for like maybe 10 to 15% of the time. And it was like these two different worlds. One world was massive wealth, and one world was like next to no wealth, living on the edge. And so I think the moment was, wow, dad made a bad trade. He traded what was priceless for what was, for something that was maybe profitable, right? Or something that he got too much caught up in his work and his wealth. And so, I mean, that was the moment, right? And I could probably add to those moments, but I remember the anger, like, welling up inside of me and asking my mom, and she finally told me the truth of what really happened and how it went down. And I remember her also saying to me, forgive your dad, love your dad. Your dad did a lot of good things. He did some really bad things too, but don't let that hold hold, basically the resentment and the hate in your heart, but love your dad. And I remember not wanting to do that, but praying and asking God to give me, the ability to forgive him. And I don't know how to explain it. But he gave me what's called I call it the gift of forgiveness, right? That allowed my heart to be at peace and to love him despite him not asking for forgiveness, him not repenting from what he did. It's not like he started to pay child support or took responsibility. It was just the opposite. He never did that. it was just the opposite. But my mom saying, pray for your dad, love your dad, and believe that if he were a believer, meaning a Christian, that he could have the power to do what maybe he doesn't think is possible, which is to live a life of honor and integrity. And this wouldn't have happened. And so I did, and I prayed, and that God gave me that gift. And so, but that being said, I said, you know what, I'm not going to let, what happened to my dad happen to me. So it's a part of my faith journey. It's a part of my foundation of what we do. And yeah, and that's a big piece of why I do what I do.
Perfect. Beautifully said. Now I'd love to hear an opposite moment. You spent a lifetime integrating this. You have 5 kids, and there was a moment where you were experiencing passive income or being able to freely transfer your capital and your hard work into a future you want, and being able to know that you were providing something for your kids that your father never could. When was a specific moment of realization, of recognition in yourself that I have done what my father never could?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So 2025 was a big year for that. We had moved from California back in 2023 for the ability to experience adventure with my family in a very tangible way. For MVPs, we call them the most vulnerable people. And so we traveled to Uganda across the world, and we landed, and we were exhausted from the travel day. My kids are between the ages of 7 and 15 at this point, but this is about a year ago. And we started to work for the next 7 days with a local church, putting in clean water wells and dedicating water wells for these communities. And so I think the moment would probably be at these sites in the middle of Uganda with people who have next to nothing. And as a family, we were able to travel and make an impact together for the most vulnerable people. We had been giving for a long time to this ministry, but we've given financially, but we have never given of our time and our energy on the ground to do this. And so, so that was definitely a monumental moment of being able to take the time and have the wealth to be able to travel and make an impact with my family.
Amazing. Brett, are you ready to hear your story?
Yeah, I am.
Mom, why are we like this? I ask as we're driving 2 hours in our grandmother's borrowed van to see my dad. I recognize in this moment we're not like other families. Dad can't come to all the games. We don't have Christmases together. We don't have the normal things that I would expect from families. I look over to her and I can see the weight and the stress and the pain on her face, having to explain the difference of why we can't afford our own car, but at my dad's house, there's tons of monies, Harleys, Corvettes, and a world of massive wealth. And she explained in some ways that your dad made some mistakes. He's still worth forgiveness and praying for, but he made some mistakes. And I could see and I could feel in that he made a trade for what was priceless and took what was profitable. But it cost him his whole family, his integrity. And though he had all the money in the world, I don't know if it was really worth it to him. And the impact that it had on my mom, on myself, on my brother for so many years. And I do remember praying for my dad and praying that he would be forgiven, despite me not wanting to. And this began a process from a very young age into understanding and mastering what wealth really was. Over the course of many years and many decades, I began to master real estate investing, the deals, the funds, the debt, the security. I began putting together a balanced team of leaders, of individuals who mastered many different aspects of tax, of wealth, of managing that. I wanted to create a system of truly passive income, not the fake overpromised hype that real estate alone could be paying all of your bills and creating freedom. I wanted something that would really allow that. And I wanted a way that I could make sure that I not only passed on true wealth to my own children, but the priceless life of a whole family in integrity. And I spent over 10,000 hours mastering this process so you could do it in 1 or 2. And I've been building that and infusing that into every aspect of capital gain tax solutions. And we've been working at this for a long time. And I really felt that I made it not too long ago in 2025. After moving my family away from California and having the experience to travel on an adventure of a lifetime to Uganda with my whole family. We landed exhausted, but we started work for the next 7 days with a local church putting in water wells for these communities. And not only did I experience the gift of wealth, of having passive income that allowed me to be there and be present and not worried about my business or anything back at home, but witnessing a wealth of families that were what we thought were vulnerable, but experiencing presence and fun and connection in a way that we had never understood or seen before. I can remember looking and seeing my kids playing there in the African plains and realizing that I had done what my father could never do. And I was so grateful for this moment. And you know, for me, it was an early family separation that led me to understand the true value and the true meaning of wealth. For you, it could be facing a huge tax bill. It could be buried in the busyness of managing real estate, or it could be in the confusion and uncertainty of worrying if what you have worked so hard to build will truly be stewarded well. And that's exactly what we're here to do for you with Capital Gains Tax Solutions.
And thank you, Kyle. That was amazing.
Thank you. You played great. And it's beautiful to see and be seen in this. It's been a big lifetime journey and deeply meaningful. Brett, do you have any closing thoughts for us today? And where can we go to learn more about you?
Yeah. It's hard to follow that after you just did a masterful job of that. I want to just share my gratitude for everything God's done in my life. You know, my mom instilling at a young age belief and a love and a passion for Jesus Christ and what he's done in my life. And that, you know, he began a good work in me at a young age, and he's seeing it through to completion. And that faith journey has only made me stronger through these struggles and these challenges, right? God can bring what's dead back to life. And he has with my family, what was dead in the marriage, he brought to life with my marriage over 16 years now to my wife, Melanie, and our children. And, you know, you can be the one. I'm reading a book by Ed Milet talking about the one, and like, who's going to be the one who stands up for the family and changes the family tree. Right. And I'm that one for my family. My brother's that one for for his part of our family. My brother and I were just, you know, two kids. And we also have an older stepbrother who's that for my dad. My dad had a previous marriage before he married my mom. He's doing that for his family. He's the one. And, you know, and I want to encourage you to be the one, right, for your family. You know, like, it doesn't have to continue the sins of your father, your mom doesn't have to continue with you. You can be the one that stops. And through the power, I believe, of God giving you forgiveness first for you and helping you to forgive others, you can bring what's dead back to life and forever change your family tree and the generations to come. And you don't know what's at stake, just that next step of forgiveness, the next step of faith, one more time, giving it a shot to heal what's been broken. And so I'm just grateful for God, grateful for Jesus Christ in my life, grateful for my mom, my grandma, who was like my second mom, second dad, and my grandma all in one. We basically lived with my grandma. My grandma was the one who could provide things for us that she had a little bit more than we had. So without her, we wouldn't have what we have, and been able to do what we did, even with the little that we had with my mom. And then also having a great older brother, and then who was a leader in our family and a leader for me. And then now my amazing wife and our 5 children. So so I would encourage you to be the one. Read the book by Ed Milet. I think it's called The One, and be the one. Don't let the what's been in the past stop you from changing your family future forever.
And where can we go to learn more about you, just to close things out strong?
Yeah. CapTaxSolutions.com if you want to learn more. And we got a book too called Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan, which is cool. You can check that out on Amazon or our website. BrettSwarts.com is kind of another place for all of the social media and different things like that.
Amazing. Brett Swarts, thank you so much for joining us today on the Story Engine podcast.
Thanks, Kyle.